Welcome to the Friends with Money podcast, brought to you by Money Magazine, creating financial freedom for Australians since 1999.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Friends with Money podcast. My name is Tom Watson, a senior journalist here at Money Magazine, and it's a pleasure to be with you. As the holiday period begins to wind down, I'm sure I'm not alone in trying to come to terms with the need to bring my mind and my brain back from vacation to the real world in order to attend to some of those financial needs that may have been neglected in recent weeks. Does that sound familiar? Well, if it does, there's nothing like a well-rested mind to take a fresh look at your finances. But what are some of the financial moves that you could or should be making to kick off 2023? Well, to give us some inspiration and hopefully some money-saving tips along the way, I'm pleased to say that we're joined today by Claire Frawley, money expert at financial comparison website Mozo. Claire, happy belated New Year and welcome back to the pod.
Thank you so much. Happy New Year to you too, Tom.
Thank you. Now, I know that I should say you've got a sizable to-do list for us today. So why don't we get right into it with something that's likely to be on plenty of people's minds at the moment, which is their home loans. Obviously, most homeowners with a mortgage were hit by some pretty hefty repayment increases last year, and it's possible that we'll see some more rate rises from the RBA this year as well. So what can mortgage holders do to save some money at the moment, Claire?
Yes. Now, this is a big one. Now, out of all the things we're going to talk about today, this has the potential to save you the most over the next year and then obviously over the life of your loan.
Excellent.
If you haven't refinanced or considered it, I really think that should be top of your list of things to do. So if you were, say, on the average variable rate, which is about 5.47%, and you switched to the lowest rate, which only starts with a 4, you could save $3,500 over the next 12 months.
Yeah, wow.
Which is giant. With most people, that's on a $400,000 loan. So most people in that bracket saw about an increase of $900 to their repayments this year over those 8 rate rises. So you basically could maybe save similar amounts to what has already been added by switching around and looking if you're eligible. Now, I understand that that is a big task for some. And if you're not ready for that, then you really need to call your lender and ask for a better rate. They might just be putting up your rate, and if you don't call and ask for a better one, they're not going to give you one, just to be nice. I mean, not all lenders. So if you can, maybe just pick an afternoon. You might have to be on hold for a little bit of time, but it's really worth it. And that's maybe like the first thing to do. And then see if they can give you a better rate. If they can't, then maybe move on to refinancing.
I love it. I think that's great. I think that's a nice kind of summer thing to be able to do as well, right? With the book, just put yourself on hold and have a read while you're waiting to be connected with your lender. And I should also say,
Definitely.
If you are interested in refinancing and want a little bit more information as well, you can go back and listen to our refinancing episode, which also features Claire. So go find that in your feeds if you're wanting to learn a little bit more about switching loans and lenders. But that's home loans, Claire. Obviously, on the other side of this, homeowners have been feeling the pain of higher rates, but savers will have probably welcomed those 8 RBA cash rate hikes that you mentioned last year, especially after what were a few pretty lackluster years in terms of savings returns. So, is there anything worth doing for Australians who are saving up for a home or a car or just in general?
Definitely. Now is the time to look around for a better savings account. And just a little reminder, you don't need to have all your banking products with one provider. split them across. Why shouldn't you get the lowest home loan, but then get the highest savings with somebody else? Like, loyalty is not going to pay off here. I feel like there's no unicorn bank that has the best of everything. But if there is, let me know. So you should really be trying to find a high savings account. And look, if you want something where you don't have to, meet conditions and grow it and things like that, a base savings rates, they've actually come up really high. The current one right now that's the highest is 3.75, which is amazing. Base savings rates were at like 0.1 back in January last year. So that's a huge difference. And let's say on about $10,000 in savings, you could earn about $382 in interest, which is a really good chunk of change to earn. So it's really worth looking around for a better rate. If you do want a bonus savings rate, make sure you can meet those conditions. Otherwise, you will just be getting their fallback rate, which is often quite low. So, I think let's be conservative and try and maybe go for a high base savings account as something of like, you just need to put one lot of effort into it, and then you're definitely going to get a good return.
I really like that as a tip. And just for kind of anyone, wondering what a base rate is, Claire, is it where you don't have to meet any of those kind of monthly conditions that you mentioned?
Correct. You just pop the money in there and you definitely get that interest rate. So there's like nothing apart from moving the money in there. You don't have to do anything else. Obviously, adding to your savings is always a good tip, but there is nothing else you have to do. Whereas with a bonus savings account, sometimes you have to do a certain number of transactions. You have to grow the account. You can't take too much out. There's a lot of nitty gritty. So a base savings account is a good thing. Sometimes it's called at call as well, but most places call it a base savings rate.
Love it. Nothing like a bit of set and forget with your finances makes things easier sometimes. But kind of moving on to something that you shouldn't forget about is credit card debt, and it's something that some people might have racked up a bit of over the last kind of month or two. Given we had a bunch of shopping sales over the last few months, people buying presents, going on holidays, all those kind of bits and pieces of spending that are kind of inevitable to some degree throughout the summer and festive period. So for anyone with a bit of a credit card debt, Claire, or with just a credit card in general, is there anything that they might want to be thinking about doing right now?
Definitely. So if you are carrying forward debt and you have made the New Year's resolution to pay it off, then a balance transfer card is probably your best bet. Now, this is where you'll take your balance and you'll transfer it to a card with a 0% interest rate, but then you're not going to spend on that card. You're just going to make repayments to pay it off. There's ones of varying degrees. Some are like 6 months, some are 12 months, some are 24 months. So you can do the calculation and see what you can afford. So it's a realistic payment. Most people probably go for a 12-month card. And so if you were transferring about $4,200 across, you would save just below $400 by using a 0% balance transfer card in comparison to using a normal credit card with a 17% interest rate. So it really is worth it because you're going to do it quicker. There's less risk involved in terms of, spending more. Did you go over, carrying it forward, all of that thing. But there's about 106 balance transfer cards we have in the Mozo database at the moment. So there are definitely options out there. So pick something if you want to do it quicker, if you want to make it you want to get there by the end of the financial year. Do it in 6 months, go for it. But if you're like, not this year might not be the year, but I do have to get it paid down, 24 months might be for you.
Wow, so many options. That truly is a lot. So it's great. Lots of choice for people out there to choose from if they need to. Moving on, Claire, this next area, it's one that I really want to talk about because it's an area that I genuinely need to look at myself because it's an expense that I saw personally increase in 2022, but I haven't actually had the time to sit down or the will to sit down yet and address it. So we're talking about NBN here or home internet, whatever it is that you have. So for anyone out there like me who maybe copped an increase last year, is it just as simple as kind of comparing options, jumping online and having a look at what else is out there?
It really is. NBN is kind of like mobile phones. And I liken that to because we've all used to have, when data became a thing, we all had probably paid $50 a month for 1 gig or something. And then since then, it's gone down massively and it's become more competitive, like the mobile phone plan market.
Mm.
And NBN and internet is very much the same. Like our speeds have changed. We use it a lot more. Like the marketplace has become really competitive. So chances are you're probably missing out. If you signed up, like let's say 2 or 3 years ago, you're probably outweighing what you need and what you get is probably out of whack to some degree. And also, let's not forget, we're all maybe working from home a day or two a week, probably streaming a little bit more than we used to. So it really is worthwhile looking at how much you can save. We actually did like a massive cost analysis to look at a number of providers. And on average, if you were just had like the average price plan and then you switched to the cheapest plan with the absolute same amount of gigabytes and upload and download, you could save over $1,100 a year, which
Really?
is huge.
Wow.
Yes,
That's
of
not the
NBN.
figure I would have thought on NBN. That's getting up
No,
towards that home loan figure.
it is. It is. That's how much difference there is in the market about what you're getting. And some people need to upload a lot of stuff to the internet. Some people need to just download. And if you've got the wrong plan for you, you could just be paying a lot more than you need to.
That's so interesting. Okay, this is good. This is good. This gives me hope that I can save a little bit of money on that potentially then, which is great. Unlike MBN, I have recently kind of paid for and sorted out this next expense, which is car insurance. So it's obviously a relatively large cost, but one that personally I only really think about when it comes time to renew. So obviously we're at a fixed point of time of the year now at the start of the year, Claire. So is this something that people should be thinking about in general, even outside of their renewal time?
Definitely. And my first tip was going to be if your renewal time is at a really inconvenient point, which mine is also in November, which is also really busy. And then you're like, we're straight into Christmas and I never have time to think about it. So I try to like review it at another point in time, but might forget. But January is a good point to go, no, look, I am going to review it because there are deals to be had. And once again, any sort of policy that you might have had or a bill for like 1 or 2 years, it's time to review. I would say 2 years is probably the max. You could probably go with an auto renew once, and then you probably need to look for a better deal because once again, we did another cost saving and literally just on average, this isn't even like the biggest savings, just going from the average to the best price, you could save just under $700
A year.
a year, which is huge. Well, that
It is
might be like
huge.
half your premium.
Yeah, right.
Depending
Wow.
on your car. And also look at different things like sometimes it's worth adding in the detail to your car insurance policy. If you keep your car in a garage, that is going to save you money off your premium opposed to a carport that isn't locked. If you've moved suburbs, it could be cheaper. So there's lots of little things with car insurance where the data might help you out. We actually did a really big report on this. If you guys want to Google a Mozo car insurance report to see and especially if you're looking to buy a new car, if there's like colors that are affected that drive up your premium and things. So just so everyone's aware, because I think a lot of people get a price and they're like, where did this number come from? Okay, I guess this is what I've got to pay. But to understand how a car insurance quote is put together is quite interesting.
Yeah, I did actually had a look at that report and kind of in general, it is interesting to see all the tiny little things that, like you said, go into it and the variables that can change your premium as well. So definitely worth kind of having a look at that and comparing different providers based on that. Claire, this next one is again, it's something quite close to my heart because I've noticed, well, I noticed throughout 2022 that a lot of my friends were kind of becoming a little bit more skeptical about their subscriptions. Maybe skeptical is not the right word, but maybe a little bit more discerning. So I don't know whether it was, because lockdowns were ending or because Netflix has now gone and made it hard to share accounts or maybe just because, cost of living became a little bit bonkers last year. But it seemed as though more people were kind of casting their eyes over their multiple different streaming subscriptions with a little bit more skepticism, and even with the view to potentially giving them the axe. So, is it worthwhile, in January doing an audit of your subscriptions to with the view of potentially cutting down?
Definitely. Now, I feel like we get all hyped up in wanting to watch the latest, was it White Lotus on Binge
Oh,
or
you
like,
know me too
The
well.
Crown on
Yep.
Netflix, and everyone gets caught up in talking about a thing. So you sign up and you watch it and then you forget about that service and then you might not use it many times. But let me just say, if you had a Netflix standard account, a Binge, a Stand, and a Disney Plus, that's $540 a year you're spending on TV subscriptions.
Wow. Yeah.
So if you cut out one of the $10 services like Binge or Stan, you're automatically saving $120. So, and also let's not forget, these are monthly subscriptions. There is no reason you have to have them for the whole year. You can just, sign on for a month to watch White Lotus and sign back out. I should say cancel your subscription, not just sign out. That's not how that works. But also, if you have signed up with your Apple Pay ID, it's actually really easy to cancel because in your iPhone settings, you literally just search subscriptions and they're all there. However, if you signed up with an email account, that doesn't work.
No.
I know. But then, obviously, but then also a hot tip is often you're paying for the month in advance. So you can cancel now in January and then you probably can still watch until your next billing cycle is up. So you might have another week or two in you. So you could do the good service and then finish, and it's like a hard deadline to finish those TV shows and then move on.
I like it. A little bit of impetus, a bit of a kick up the backside to actually go and watch White Lotus and then get rid of it. And then
how could you leave
reassess.
1 or 2 episodes hanging?
I know. I've got to do it. I'm too far behind. Claire, we've done a lot today, so we'll make this our last topic for the day. But it's a big one, not only because it was kind of heavily in the news last year, but because the cost of this just really went through the roof for plenty of households. And I'm obviously talking about energy and the cost of energy bills. So it is now a good time to think about switching, and if someone is thinking about switching, could they potentially still save themselves some money by doing so?
Definitely. As much as we can try to reduce our energy use over these hotter months, going to the root cause and looking at your provider and your bill and seeing how much you are paying and if you can get a better deal is really going to save you money. We did a little comparison and we found that the average power bill could save about $460. And the average gas bill, we could save about $205 by switching around. And it's not like you have to go unplug your electricity or something. It is just a bit of research and a phone call, and then it just switches over. So it's something really to take into consideration. And it could, we're set to see prices really rise this year. So we may as well go to the root cause, try and nip it and get a better deal. And then, of course, try and be a little bit more reserved with your power uses around the house.
I love it. I think that's great. And this is perfect. We can add this call in to the home loan call and to the car insurance call as well. So make it an afternoon of calls and sitting back.
Yeah, one hot tip is some providers actually have little chat box. So I compared my car insurance over a little chat messenger thing.
Oh.
So sometimes it's not always look, home loans, it probably definitely is a phone call. But energy, there might be a chat box. So, if you're not one to love a phone call or be left on hold, see if there's a chat box around.
I'm too old school, even though there's only a couple of years between us. I'm showing my age a little bit here. Claire, just a little bit. We've covered so much ground today, but we'll leave it there. So thank you so much for coming on and giving us, a really good kickstart for the year.
Thank you. And put these deadlines on everyone. It's like nothing's good without a deadline. You got to get it done by the end of January.
I love it. got a couple of days or a week or so to go at least. So that sounds good. Just before we go though, don't forget that if you enjoy listening to Friends with Money, we'd love for you to share it or recommend it to your own friends and family. You can also leave us a review on iTunes or the Apple Podcast app. And while you're there, hit the subscribe button to make sure that you get Friends with Money in your feed as soon as it comes out every week. We'd also love to hear from you if you have any questions, comments, or story ideas. So to get in touch, you can use our dedicated email, which is podcast@moneymag.com.au. And finally, you can always keep up to date with the latest financial news on our website by heading over to moneymag.com.au. That's it for this episode of the Friends with Money podcast, but we'll be right back with you next week. I'm Tom Watson. Bye for now.
Thanks for listening to the Friends with Money podcast. For credible, independent, and easy to understand financial commentary, visit moneymag.com.au. Please remember that the views and opinions expressed in this podcast are general in nature, and further independent advice and research based on your personal circumstances should be sought before making an investment decision.